Hello my dear students, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn an English chapter of class 9 that is on saying please, which is written by Alfred George Gardiner. And today we are going to see part 1 of this chapter. So let us move towards the chapter. But before that, students, if you are viewing my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get the notifications of all the upcoming videos to watch the video till end, and if you like it, hit the like button and also share with your friends. So let's quickly see about the author Alfred George Gardiner, who has written this chapter, who is this author of the lesson. He was a British journalist and author who who was born in 1865 and he died in 1946. And he was a famous journalist and an author. His essays he used to write under the pen name of Alpha of the Plow. Pen name is the name given under the story, like at the end of the story you write the name, you don't give out your original name. What is it, you just give your pen name. So he used to write under the pen name Alpha of the Plow, and these are highly regarded and very well-known essays. And he's also a chairman. He was also a chairman of the National Anti-Sweating League, a pressure group which campaigned for the minimum wage in industry. Okay, so he was just fighting for the campaign where minimum wages were given in industries. So this is about the author. So now let's see about the chapter, what actually we have to learn in this essay, that is in the form of chapter on saying please. So this is an essay on saying please. It opens with an instance of a young liftman in the city office who threw a passenger out of his lift for not saying the word please. The latter wanted to go to the top floor of the building, and he would not say top, please. This annoyed the liftman, who threw the passenger out of his lift. The act cost the liftman his job. Gardiner then discusses the merits and demerits of the particular case and then, in his usual manner, moves on to a discussion of politeness and its importance in the social life of a man. So, I think students would have got a brief idea. It is like a gist of a story or a lesson what we are going to learn here. So, on saying please, this is an essay which we can see that the opening of the essay is from an instance, a situation of a young liftman in the city office who is just throwing out the passenger out of his lift, means is not allowing him to enter in this lift just because the passenger is not saying him the word please. Okay, and this passenger, he wanted to go to the top floor of the building, but he's not saying top please, he's not adding the word please there. And so this annoyed the liftman, this made liftman very angry, and he threw the passenger out of the lift. And this act of throwing this man out of the lift cost the liftman his job, means he was also removed out from the job. And Gardiner then discusses about the merits and demerits, like advantages and disadvantages of this case, like was it good or bad, or in a usual manner. And then he moves on to the discussion of politeness and its importance in the social life of men, like how kindness and politeness and humble words are very important in one's life. So these are the discussions what the author is going to do in this chapter after saying the incidents of this liftman and the passenger. So let's see the lesson in detail. So the young liftman in a city office who threw the passenger out of his lift the other morning was fined, and for the offense was undoubtedly in the wrong. It was a question of please. The complainant entering the lift said top. So what happened? As we just saw on the disc, the liftman wanted to hear top please. He wanted to hear the word please, the polite word please. But this customer, this complainant, he wanted to go on the top of floor and he just said top. Instead of saying top please, he said top, and this angered the liftman. And liftman was demanding then, no, you have to say top please. But he said only top. So this was the a mistake which the passenger did, and this annoyed the liftman. He made him angry, and he just kicked him out of the lift. And what happened in return? That the liftman was also fired from the job, means he was removed from the job because this passenger he complained the high authority, and this is how it happened. And then further, we get to know that discourtesy is not a legal offense and it does not excuse assault and battery. If a burglar breaks into my house and I knock him down, the law will acquit me. And if I am physically assaulted, it will permit me to retaliate with reasonable violence. So here our authors start saying or commenting on this issue, what happened here, how the liftman was fired out of the job because he kicked out the liftman for not saying please. Then he says that the author says that this courtesy is not a legal offense. Like if you're not showing politeness, kindness to other people, it is not a legal offense. Like it's not a criminal act. Because in our country, in our society, what we do, if some physical assault is done or physically you can see that something torture or harm is done to other people, then it will be considered as a crime, and it will be like you will be allowed to take the revenge or retaliate. You will be permitted, like you can defend yourself there. But here, for the emotional and the kind of thing which is not seen, if it's not physical assault, you are not allowed to do anything against that. So here the author gives example of a burglar. If a burglar comes into your house and he breaks the commands of law, so there's no system against that bad manners there. Okay, if some burglar is coming, if he's doing some violence, physical violence on you, and then you are retaliating or you are taking a revenge or defending yourself and then hitting him, then you will not have any legal case on you, or you will not be punishable there. Okay, so this is the thing what the author is trying to say here. And here, in our sympathy with the liftman, we must admit that the law is reasonable. So there should be some law which should also consider offense if you are saying some harsh words, or if you are very violent with your words. So there, even then, the law should have some rules and regulations there. It should be a punishable offense. This is what the author trying to say here. The poor liftman here, he was fired out of the job. No, it would never do if we are at liberty to box people's ears because we did not like their behavior, or the tone of the voices, or the scowl of the faces. Our fist would never be idle, and the gutters of the city would run with blood all day. But here we don't have so many laws from the in the society that we are not allowed to or retaliate or take revenge for certain circumstances. As we can see here, if the person is not using kind words, or if is not saying sorry, thank you, or please, you cannot hit them. You cannot tell them to do that. You cannot force them. Okay, if that liberty was given to box people's ears, means to hit everybody if they are not saying you these words, then the whole city would run with blood. So there are some, you can say, limitations where you cannot go beyond that. Right, so here examples are given like the behavior or the tone of the voices or the scowl on the people's faces. You cannot control them. You cannot demand for that according to your wishes and how you want to see them. Okay, so or else the case of the city would be totally different, and all over you would see that like every other person would be hitting other people itself for not saying proper or the kind words. Then the author says again, I may be as uncivil as I may please, and the law will protect me against violent retaliation. I may be haughty or boorish, and there is no penalty to pay except the penalty of being written down an ill mannered fellow. The law does not compel me to say please or to attune my voice to other people's sensibilities any more than it says that I shall not wax my moustache or dye my hair or wear ringlets down my back. It does not recognize the laceration of our feelings as a case of for compensation. There is no allowance for moral and intellectual damages in these matters. Okay, so this is the same examples what I just gave you, that you cannot force anybody to be very polite or kindness, and uh, law is there. It is going to protect you if something uncivil happens, but there is no law someone if they are very haughty or boorish, or if they are saying some bad words to you, except they will just society will tag them as ill-mannered fellow, he is bad-mannered, he doesn't have manners, how to talk or respect to people. That's it. There is no law which is going to punish him, or it's going to compel anybody to say please or change your tone of voice. So these are some things. Just as you, nobody can tell you like whether you have to wax your mustache or you have to dye your hair or not, or you have to wear this or that. So in the same similar manner, it cannot be forced. So it does not recognize the laceration of our feelings as the case of for compensation. And here there is no allowance for moral and intellectual damages in this matters. Even if you're hurted, if your moral and intellectually damages are occurring in human being, there are no such allowance or punishments to be given to the criminals or those who have committed that mistakes like that. Okay, so this is what the author says. Then it does not mean that the damages are negligible. Yeah, but that is right. If there is no punish or offense which is recognized under the law, like saying abusing words or not being kind, it cannot be negligible. Okay, it is probable that the liftman was much more accurately hurt by what he regarded as a slur upon his social standing than he would have been if he had kicked on his shins, for which he would have got a legal redress. Okay, so here what was the liftman's mistake? He just wanted some respect, some kind words to be heard. But here it did not happen like that. So he felt it was a slur upon his social standing, like it was a slap on him, on his on his pose there, on his on being a human being. He did not like that people saying so rudely. So the pain of a kick on the shin soon passes away, but the pain of a wound to our self-respect or our vanity may poison a whole day. So here the author is trying to say that if there is someone who's kicking you and you are getting some physical pain, it can pass away by time. Within a few moments, you'll forget that pain if somebody hits you or by mistake something happens. You got a hurt, you got a wound, then it's okay. You if it, by time, as the time pass, the hours pass, you forget it and nothing happens. But if the wound is for your self-respect, if you are deeply hurted and if your heart is broken there, and if your self-respect have been wounded, then it is just as a poison in your mind and body, and the whole day you keep on thinking about that. Okay, so here author says, I can imagine that liftman denied the relief of throwing the author of his wound out of the lift, brooding over the insult by the hour and visiting his wife in the evening as the only way of restoring his equilibrium. For there are few things more catching than bad temper and bad manners. When Sir Anthony Absolute bullied Captain Absolute, the latter went out and bullied his man, Fag, whereupon Fag went out downstairs and kicked the page boy. Probably the man who said chop to the liftman was really only getting back on his employer who had not said good morning to him, because he himself had been henpecked at breakfast by his wife, to whom the cook had been insolent because the housemaid had answered her back. See how the change you can see, students. Here, the what author literally mean here is that sometimes you are not so rude or you're not so harsh on others, but it just the temper, bad temper which you had, and it may be pass it just comes on passing from one person to another. So here the passenger who was in the lift, maybe he was very angry with his employer who did not wish him good morning on that day because he was expecting that, and that employer, he might have been handpicked at breakfast by his wife. Means that employer, he did not say good morning because he was in not good mood, because maybe his wife would have argued with him or said something bad. And instead this wife, she said, because she was not in good mood, because the cook in the house had argued, had back answered the wife. So just see, the wife was angry. She said to the husband, and the husband, the employer, he was angry. He did not wish the passenger here. The passenger was angry. He did not say the polite words to the liftman, and the poor liftman, he had to just get out of the job for this instance. So this is what happened. Actually, the people are not rude every time, but there are circumstances and the situations which makes them such rude at that time. So this is what happened. One more example of Captain Absolute has been given here, who was bullied by a man and then he was angry. He went downstairs, he kicked his page boy. So this anger and rudeness, sometimes it is not intentionally done, but it is passed on from one person to another because you don't have any other option there. You need to remove your frustration on somebody. So this is what is happening here. Okay, so let's move on. We infect the world with our ill humors, bad manners probably do more to poison the stream of the general life than all the crimes in the calendar. So here you meant to say that there are many bad manners which are there, and it is the poison, it is which poison the general life than all the crimes in the calendar. Now, what is that hurt you much is this bad manners because it hurts your self esteem, self respect. If somebody says you something bad, that is the thing which is going to hurt you more than if any crime has been done or something, because they get the punishment for that crimes, but for this ill humor thing and bad manners, you don't have any such kind of offense or punishments which has been given for them. Okay, then for one wife who gets a black eye from an otherwise good-natured husband, there are 100 who live a life of martyrdom under the shadow of a Boros temple. But all the same, the law cannot become the guardian of all our private manners. No decalogue could cover the vast area of offences, and no court could administer a law which governed social activities or speech, the tilt of our eyebrows in all our modes and manners. So here again in the comment and the discussion, the author says that there are probably many bad manners which are having no punishments. For instance, there are many of the wives who are suffering this. How he explains that there are some good-natured husbands in the house who take good care of the wives and nothing to say like that, but there are many of the wives who are hundreds of wives who are living a life of martyrdom under the shadow of moral temper, because ultimately the employer, the passenger or the customer or the person who is going to the work, who is going outside and has been just said some harsh words from somebody, so it's ultimately when he comes home, he takes out everything on the wife and the children. So this is how there are many hundreds of people or the wives who are living a life of such a kind of morose temple, who has to live under that kind of tempers. Okay, so here the law cannot be made for each and everything to look into your private matters and manners, and so that is how this is all happening. So it has been just administered as the social civilities, our speech and our tilt and our eyebrows and our moods and manners cannot be governed by the law. Government cannot check all these things and cannot make a law for this you have to control yourself and you have to see and check out yourself. Okay, next. But though we are bound to endorse the verdict against the liftman, most people will have a certain sympathy with him. Okay, so people have different opinions. Some may say that it's right what he did, some may say it is wrong, but we have sympathy. The author has sympathy towards the liftman. While it is true that there is no law that compels us to say please, there is a social practice much older and much more sacred than any law which enjoins us to be civil. And the first requirement of the civility is that we should acknowledge a service. Okay, so here author says we know that there is no law written in the constitution or in the country to be for the self-respect for saying the honorable and polite words, but it is a social practice which we practice from much older days, and it is a sacred thing that we follow. And the polite words of saying please and thank you whenever any service is being provided, we acknowledge it. We just say please and thank you, and it changes the whole environment there. Okay, so please and thank you are the small change with which we pay our ways as social beings. There are little courtesies by which we keep the machine of life oiled and running sweetly. So the author says here that the please and thank you are Very good words. It is like the little courtesies by which the machine of life is oiled and runs sweetly. It will run very smoothly than if you use these words in your life, in your daily routine. They put our intercourse upon the basis of a friendly cooperation and easy give and take, instead of on the basis of superiors dictating the inferiors. Okay, so it makes our life very easy, give and take, and it's very cooperative. Cooperatively, the life will go ahead instead of dictating to inferiors, means showing your superiority to your inferiors, to a lower person. It is a very vulgar mind that would wish to command where he can have the service for asking and have it with willingness and good feeling instead of resentment. So if somebody is providing you service, and if you are saying politely, he will be very happy to do that work. Instead, if you command, he knows it is his work, he's doing, he's providing some service. But if you say it very politely with please and thank you, it will enhance his enthusiasm and work much more freely and willingly. Instead, if you command, they will not have the same kind of feeling, and they will not work in the similar manner. Okay, so I should like to feature in this connection my friend, the polite conductor. So, after discussing all these things, the author is remembering a polite conductor which he happened to meet one day, and he has become as a friend of his. So he says, by this discriminating title, I do not intend to suggest a rebuke to conductors generally. On the contrary, I am disposed to think that there are few classes of men who come through the ordeal of a very tiring calling better than bus conductors do. Here and there you will meet an unpleasant specimen who regards the passengers as his natural enemies, as creatures whose chief purpose on the bus is to cheat him, and who can only be kept reasonably honest by a loud voice and aggressive manner. But this type is rare, rarer than it used to be. So here the author is saying about a polite conductor which he has come across, and he's saying that literally, if you say if you imagine any conductor, the people think that they are harsh people, the passengers are their enemies, and they have a loud tone, loud voice, they're very aggressive. Why? Because people usually try to cheat them without paying the ticket. They try to travel and all these things, and so the conductors are a bit louder and aggressive. But this is rare of its kind. This conductor whom he has met is totally different. He is rarer than rarer. So let's say the author says that I fancy the public owes much to the Underground Railway Company, which also runs the buses, for insisting on a certain standard of civility in its servants and taking care that standard is observed. In doing this, it is not only makes things pleasant for the traveling public, but performs the important social service. So he's saying that there are underground railway companies which are taking care of the buses, and they are making them to run properly so that they can provide the service for the public. So here we end with the first part, students. Let us see which kind of conductor the author has met and how is he in the next part of the video. Till then, stay tuned and like the button, hit the like button if you like the video, and to share with your friends. We'll be back soon with the second part. Till then, thank you.